Welcome to the NoJetStress Podcast, where we explore traveller wellbeing solutions for business and frequent flyers seeking to conquer jet lag and live healthier lives. I'm your host, Christopher Babayode, ex-flight attendant, traveller wellbeing advocate, nutritional therapist, and author. Welcome back to part 2 of my conversation with Vukolova, Aviation insider and co-host of the Sky Lounge podcast. We jump right back into the conversation about personalization in air travel. Are there specific things that airlines or any of the other vendors along the way can help us with that you see as necessary? And by that, I mean, like, I'm talking about personalization of our trips, maybe,
I think so. Absolutely. They can do so many things. I always mention this data. Airlines have so much data. They're sitting on huge piles of data that they collect from us. Yet, they don't use this data in many cases. As an example, like if I am vegetarian, I would always pre-order a vegetarian meal. And I'm loyal to an airline. I log into my account. Every time the airline wouldn't ask me if I want this pre-booked. And I think this makes so much sense. You have this information, right? I flew with you 20 times. Every time I ordered vegetarian meal, why you're not proactively asking me, there is a vegetarian meal option. Do you want us to book it for you? Same with seating, like I have like seating choices depending on like which class of travel and the distance, But let's say on short haul, I always have a window seat. And again, airline knows that I always pick a window seat, and sometimes I even pay for window seat. Why this data is not being utilized? Like why I'm not being, even sold a window seat if I cannot choose for free? Like they can say, Alex, you always pick a window seat. Do you want to secure your favorite seat? Like I like number 3. So I would love like maybe 3rd row, 13, 33. By the way, 13 is fine for me. I have no issues with that. I'm just saying that there is so much data that airlines have to make our trips more personalized and in fact better. It translates to being better for us, but they are simply not utilizing this data. I heard about, what was that? One airline in Japan, maybe JAL or ANA. I just heard it from someone. So one of those two. What they do actually in their IFE content, so while you watch a movie, you can sync it with your app. They will give you a code, you sync it, and next time you board this airline's flight, you can resume movie or different movies. The app would know where you stopped, and you can start watching different things and just, then say, I want to switch to something else. So small things like this, they actually improve passenger experience, because if you think about it, like you get on board and you get the screen. This is like another entertainment after food. And first, like you have to pick the right movie. Then, if you leave it or being distracted, how do you resume it? So things like this, I'm just saying simple things that every airline, I believe, can do. But still, for some reason, most of the airlines, they're not doing those. Because again, I think like so much focus is put on premium cabins to make it perfect in premium cabins. So economy class travelers are often overlooked, and just left with whatever is there, You just have to be grateful for us, giving you this little cookie and a glass of water, and you should be grateful for life.
Yeah, that pretty much sums up the attitude. And I remember that firsthand from another airline, where basically all the customer focus groups were centered around inviting business class travelers to these small gatherings. And that was it. And the way they looked at it was, that's where the revenue is. But, that's not to say people don't travel between cabins. And if you're trying to build a relationship with everyone, because it is still revenue, then it makes sense to not be so narrow-minded, I would suggest. And I think that's what you're saying as well. But
Absolutely. And
I
as a
don't know why that...
traveler, sorry.
Yeah, go on, please.
No, I just wanted to say, as a traveler that travels in different cabins, I can tell you, if an airline is really good in economy and I'm impressed with their product in economy, I cannot wait to try this airline in premium cabin, because it
Right.
makes sense, right? If they are good in economy, then you're thinking, oh my gosh, like how product will be in premium cabin. Like think of Qatar. I think Qatar is great in economy. You really can enjoy everything there. Like they take good care of you. But also Qatar premium classes, they are amazing, right? It
Yeah.
happens a lot that an airline would have a very good premium product, but really crappy economy class product. But I think long term, best airlines out there, they have also very good economy class product.
Yeah. I mean, there's that saying, what you do to the least of us, it filters
Exactly.
up, kind of thing, right? So yeah, it's so right. So a discussion about the vast vault and amounts of data that exists, and the idea of mining that data, and therefore talking about AI and the impact it's having, and the potential for using AI to mine that data to get us more insightful results that leads to better types of personalization. Do you see any airlines or do you see it as something that's being contended with within our industry as such? Because like you say, the opportunity is massive if someone would take the lead.
Yes and no. I think many airlines these days, they definitely realize that AI should be utilized and there is so much potential. But I think most of them currently still use AI, and we're talking here about passenger-facing features in the form of a chatbot. That is something that all of them keep bragging about, like, oh, we have this amazing AI assistant. And actually, yeah, some of them, they really use AI, but for some of them, it's the good old chatbot technology. It's just named differently now, right? There is nothing
Yeah.
about AI, but some of them, they really do use AI to improve chatbots. And I think that is like something that, can help travelers like you and I a lot, because I don't know about you, but every time I have to call airline, I spend so much time, because the airlines that I call, they tend to take their sweet time holding me on the line. And so it's always like, it's always something horrible, and that's something that I'm not looking for. So if I can deal with chatbot or AI agent, whatever they call it, that would help me to fix my issue online without calling, I think it helps me as a passenger, but also it saves cost for the airline, right? So
Yeah.
things like this,
Yeah.
I think in other areas, and we are talking about passenger facing areas, AI is still, underutilized. I think many airlines, and that is from my experience of working for GDS, many airlines sit on legacy technologies. And it takes a long while for them to implement something new. So I think we, as passengers, we would still have to wait a few years, maybe 10 years, whatever number of years, until we see AI actually affecting the personalization of our trips and all those things that, you board the aircraft, and with AI, airline already knows about you, that you like your, orange juice at departure with no ice, and someone brings you that. I think all of those things are still like a long way coming.
Fair enough.
Mm.
And what's, I guess, not so comforting about that observation is the fact that you used the phrase, or you said words to the effect of, a lot of these legacy airlines hit on, I don't know if it's just infrastructure, but processes that are
Yeah.
outdated. And I heard that a couple of years ago from Anne Stederall, who was also
Who
on
is
the
my great
podcast. And
friend? Yes.
all
Hi,
right, well, there
Anne.
we go. So it's like, gosh, okay. And that was probably about 2 years ago. Things haven't changed. So I guess we have to have this conversation in other places as well to see how we can help that along, as well as a shout out to these airlines to stop just listening to, I was going to say first class and business class travelers, but for all intents and purposes, except for, well, this is just from my experience that I know, outside of the Middle East, there aren't a lot of other airlines that still maintain a first class on the whole as such. Maybe because, I don't know.
Air
Or would you
France,
disagree with that?
Lufthansa,
Air
yes, in
France,
Europe,
BA,
Lufthansa,
Lufthansa,
BA, yeah,
but then
yeah,
further afield,
not so many.
yeah,
Yeah,
not so many. But the idea is, we need a broader conversation, and whatever can help that along. These are valuable insights and valuable people to the business, and therefore we need to broaden that conversation as such. So just pausing just a minute there and thinking about the experience that people have as they go through lounges, whether they're branded lounges in airports or lounges that you can pay for that are standalone lounges. I understand that some of them are trying to reach out to that wellness side of things and make offerings and stuff. Have you experienced any of those? And what are your thoughts about their utility and usefulness as someone is traveling?
you're right. Some of the lounges, they do focus on well-being. For example, in Helsinki, Finnair's lounge, they do offer sauna, which
Oh, wow.
as an idea, it sounds amazing. I don't know like how many people go to the sauna or what's in Clubhouse, right? It's Virgin's lounge in
Yeah.
Heathrow. Yeah. Clubhouse offers Peloton bikes, right? I would totally do it. If there is a shower, I would totally go. I'm the kind of person and traveler that would jump on Peloton bike whenever you throw this opportunity at me. But I don't know like about other people because see, I think like for many people, airports, lounges is not really associated with being healthy. It's actually the opposite because it's a place where you see people drinking at any time of the day because they say time does not count, like or whatever, like what's the expression, right?
Yeah, it's always 6 o'clock somewhere, and therefore I can afford to
Exactly.
have my
Always
alcoholic
6 o'clock.
sundowner.
Absolutely. So I think for many people, being in the airport is not a normal life. It's something different. It's something that maybe they can eat something that they don't usually eat, like a burger. I don't know, like a piece of cake that usually they try to stay away or drink at a time that they wouldn't drink. But I think the more you travel, like for me, it's not an exception. It's a part of my routine actually to travel. And I think that's why I had to like adjust. And this is like a mindset switch, when you start thinking of this as a part of your normal life and to bring it as much as possible like closer to your normal life and normal routine and things that you would stick to. So I think, yes, some lounges, you asked me about lounges, they do have those wellness zones, also massages, spas. This is something that people may be more keen to because they can combine again with all the other unhealthy stuff. But like, if we talk about exercise or sauna, sounds like a great idea, but I would be really keen to see the statistics of how many people actually do it.
Me too. I think I'd like to give a shout out and applaud Helsinki Airport, as you mentioned, for the sauna, simply because, according to circadian science, the last thing that happens for your body to overcome a phase shift, i.e. jet lag, is the rapid increase of your base metabolic rate and it lowering again. And sauna can help achieve that. So it's really quite
Wow.
useful in that respect, for sure. So that would be interesting and useful, if nothing else. But yes, figures on who uses that and understands that as a process. Again, we're talking about whether people are educated enough to put two and two together to understand how they can use it in that respect. And then, as you mentioned that, I sort of like went off on another side note because I don't know if they're still in operation, but it's not. Is it Etihad that has? Do some airlines still have showers in first class?
Yeah,
Do you have
Emirates does,
Emirates?
Etihad. Yeah, I think Etihad also does. Emirates for sure. Yeah, I still
Right.
haven't done it, but I would really love to do it. Like, oh my God, like this is the moment that, I'm waiting for. Like, honestly, if someone from Emirates is listening to this podcast and willing to get like a feedback from passenger with an opinion, yeah, I'm keen to,
Right.
do this.
And if they do that, come back on the show and let
Of
us know
course.
what it was like
Of
as an
course.
experience, please.
Yeah.
But funnily enough, that touches on another digression. But, when these new aircrafts are in prototype stages, we hear these fantastical things that they are using as part of the PR to like sell the aircraft or the concept and so on and so forth. Some of it can be outlandish and some of it more practical. I guess when the showers were first introduced, I don't know if they were true, some nightmare stories of the shower flooding. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not particularly a good thing to happen on an aircraft at 36,000 feet. But obviously, they must have overcome that if they're still in existence or still working. And it's an experience that one can have at 36,000 feet, no problem at all. But I think Virgin Atlantic, they still have like their bar, which is a place where
Yeah.
people can mingle and so on and so forth. And one time, I think British Airways, it's a bit of a different slant, but on the Middle Eastern aircraft, they had spaces where anyone of the Islamic faith could actually go and pray and, things like that, So these things are all good because, yeah, you can argue that it touches on people's well-being in some way, shape, or form, and therefore are to be encouraged. But I wouldn't like to see it get to a point where one obviously causes problems for other people traveling, and two, where it becomes something that is misunderstood in terms
Yeah.
of the ability to help wellness along rather than just a nice to have on the aircraft. So, and I think that kind of like touches on, again, coming back to this point of the mindset of the travelers that we have and what they're able to see as being relevant to them depending on the reasons that they're traveling for, so to speak. So how do you feel about the impacts that the crew on aircraft have in terms of the well-being of the passengers that they're ferrying from point A to point B? I think as an ex-crew member myself, I have a vested interest, you might say, but I think that is also part of this well-being traveler wellness conversation.
I think huge impact for emotional well-being, for physical well-being. It just, crew matters a lot. Like the recent flights that I had in economy, I mentioned Air France, I also flew with Delta on Sunday. Both times, like long haul economy, it can be really tough and problematic and not so enjoyable. But both times the crew was amazing, very friendly, and it doesn't take much, Actually, it's just like crew that is smiling, being nice to you. And of course, as a passenger, and that is something that I keep seeing and I hate it, but many passengers, they simply treat crew as someone who serve their drink, which actually is the wrong idea. It's completely wrong. Like crew, yes, they serve you a drink, but that's not the main task that they have. The main thing there is there for your safety. And I think like many people, they just not being nice human beings to crew, and the crew returns the favor, right? Quote unquote. So I think start with yourself, be nice to your crew, and then the crew, when they're smiling to you, when they're giving you water. Yeah, those rounds of water rounds, that crew is going in the middle of the red-eye flight and carrying some glasses with water and offering proactively. It's very appreciated because yes, if you are in an aisle seat, you can always go in the back and ask. But if you are in the middle or, at the window seat, you sort of rely on crew, right? And many people wouldn't want to press the button, call an attendant and say, can you have a glass of water? Many people wouldn't do this. So things like this all depend on the crew. Small things, but they make difference,
A humorous aside, I think I once came across a crew member that had on their lapel a badge which wasn't visible. But then when they flipped the lapel over, it said, I'm here to save your ass, not to kiss it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, obviously, we're all in this together, whether you're in first class, business class, or down the back. We all bleed together and we feel the same. We're in that confined space, and therefore attitudes of collaboration and camaraderie go a long way wherever you might be sitting, whether that's a crew jump seat, a first class seat, business class, or economy class seat. Can I ask you pointedly then, do you have a favorite airline for wellness?
Favorite airline for wellness? No, I don't have. And I don't think I will.
Are you being political?
No, not really. It's just I really think a lot depends on you as a passenger, and you can make experience on any airline better for your well-being.
Okay.
You really don't you don't have to, and you should not shift this responsibility and say, oh, I feel so crap after this flight, so unhealthy because of this airline. They gave me this, they treated me that. I mean, a lot of things really, I believe you are in control of. So it's very nice that when airline puts an effort to create a better experience, with mood lighting, with newer aircraft, with things like, phone holder. When you think of well-being and phone holder, you can't really connect these two, but actually phone holder makes a big difference. Newer aircraft, narrow body aircraft, they have this little phone holder. So you don't have to hold your device all the time. Given you don't have IFE, you can put it there. Chargers, phone holders, cup holder, all the small things. Those things airlines can do, but I wouldn't call an airline great for well-being if they implement those, right?
Fair. All right, then we'll take every little bit helps, but yeah, we need more bigger strides than that.
Yeah.
One of those strides for me is, and it's a pet peeve of mine, I think I'm yet to fly in an A350, but I have flown on a 787. And what still gets me, I don't know if it's something that they can change at will, but the idea that, okay, if you're on a night flight, it's all dark, the lights have gone down, the meal service has been done, and then you go into the bathroom, and then the white, bright light just hits you. And I'm thinking, thank you, my circadian rhythms are now disrupted. I think my workaround is to wear blue blocking light glasses on an aircraft, as weird as that might make me look, because I want to preserve that ability to not wake myself up because of that. But I think I can safely say we have the technology to probably do away with that. And maybe it's more of a lack of understanding of how it works. And at the same time, maybe it's a duty of care thing that they want to make sure that people don't trip over one another or do something silly in the bathroom, that they need to put so much light in there. But that's kind of like one of those pet peeves that I think that's definitely within the remit of an airline to look at. Possibly there could be many others, but that one really.
And now
works
when you
for me.
mentioned 787 and lightning, I actually think of this. 787, it has dimmable windows, right? So you can control at your seat, but also crew can control. And here I noticed this many times, and that's where I think airline is not great for well-being. When they dim those windows during daylight flight, it's 10 a.m., you board the aircraft, they give you food when they want to give you food, and then they dim those windows. They want you to sleep, but actually you should not. And then you try to unlock it, and they say, no, we
No,
locked
no,
it.
yeah.
Like, yeah, but it's actually really bad for your circadian rhythms, right? But coming back to crew, of course, for crew, it's better when people are sleeping and
Because it's
they tend to be
easier,
less
yes.
demanding. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's funny that it cuts both ways for sure. So I think, are you familiar with, is it Aero.org? Is there, I'm trying to remember a particular
What are you
outfit.
talking about? The name is different,
Aeroclass.
but Aeroclass, yeah.
No,
yeah,
it's, I would like to make a case for there to be a well-being type of course for
yeah.
cabin crew and pilots along the lines of the updated information that we're now getting in terms of traveler well-being. And my top of the mountain view is this, and bear with me here because it's a bit, well, maybe it's a bit outlandish and far out there at the moment, but Elon Musk would like to make us a multi-planetary species. He's just announced how he wants to go about getting human beings to Mars. And in my mind, I'm like, we can't conquer pesky jet lag here. How are we going to get to Mars? So, let's do the one step in front of the other first before we learn to jump and leap. And I think, yeah, it's like we said at the top of the program, we need all sides to participate and have the conversation that allows better tools, better understanding, and more education so that we can actually make the product better together. Any final thoughts on that from your end?
No, I think it's a great idea, Chris. And in fact, I might connect you with someone, or actually, this person already who can help you with this, with Aeroclass class. So definitely, I think you should do this. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll take you up on that. Please do, because I think, for sure, it's something that would definitely float my boat and to explore the potential of what that can offer. And if that helps move the industry forward, I'm all for that. So is there anything else that airlines particularly get right? I feel like maybe we have done quite a lot of bashing. So if it's an opportunity to add a bit more.
They do many things right, but the human mentality and our minds, we focus on negative and we remember negative, but we keep forgetting good things. So I'm pretty sure. No, I love airlines. Like in general, I am like serial aviation geek. I love different airlines and different experiences. It's just, I think, for purpose of this conversation, we try to focus, on things that maybe they can improve, hoping that, they would be listening and also connecting those to like what we as passengers can do. But definitely airlines, I think industry changed so much, even in the last 10 years or even after pandemic changed so much. When you think of like even the public announcements, right? How they became more inclusive in the last years. Like it used to be ladies and gentlemen always, and now that's not the case on most airlines, right? Inclusivity and things like this, I see, and technology too. It's just specifically for technology, I think like airlines, they tend to focus more first on things that affect their revenue. So more like back end, and passenger facing improvements. Yeah, they are maybe coming at a later stage. But still, like, it's a great industry, Happy to be part of it, and enjoy every moment of it, and enjoy bashing airlines.
We've redeemed ourselves with that statement. I take it.
Yeah.
So as a passenger with an attitude, for yourself, what, in your opinion, and I'm sure it can be a mixed bag, and as you say, there are these piles and piles of data that are gathering, but for yourself, if you have a bad experience, do you make a point of asking for that feedback form, or what avenue do you think is the best for us to feedback this wish list of things in terms of well-being or something that's not right? What is the preferred avenue do you think makes the most sense? Because sometimes you get people, it's like, okay, it bothers them in the moment, or they get off the aircraft and they've got seminar things, so they don't do anything else. But how can we make sure we're heard as an insider? Do you have any thoughts on how we might be able to do that best?
My case, I think, is a little bit different because I mentioned I do post quite a lot. And actually, it's funny that I go to an event like a conference and I'm, heading partnerships for a company, but people know me as an aviation blogger because of my LinkedIn posts. So whenever, I tend to review my experiences and post about it. My idea is that I try to focus more on positive things when I post and name the airline. I would try to focus more on positive. If there is a very, very negative feedback, I still do post negative things, but I tend not to mention the name because I really don't like this way of attracting attention.
Yeah.
But what I would do, because of my network on LinkedIn, I've got quite a few followers. I would try to see and reach out maybe to a person who is responsible for that matter at the airline and just say, you know what, I've been a passenger on your airline. I had this experience. If you want, I can share more with you if you're interested. And you will be surprised, but people get so happy, genuinely open to hear feedback when you reach out directly. And why I do this? Because I think it's more effective, honestly, than submitting a form. And again, this does not apply to majority of people, I guess, because they just simply wouldn't be in this situation that I am. But with what I have, and I should leverage those connections, and I reach out and I try to really help airlines to improve their passenger experience. And people who are responsible for those things, very often they're actually incredibly happy that you didn't share this negative experience, didn't tag them. They appreciate the fact that you reached out directly and they're more keen to actually work on it this way. That's what I learned. And actually with my posts on LinkedIn, I have two goals as a passenger with an opinion. First, to help travelers to educate, maybe share insightful information and help to improve their travel experiences. But second goal is to really help airlines to improve passenger experience. So it's twofold, two different angles, but it happened quite a lot that airlines would reach out to me and say, oh, thanks for this post because actually you dragged our attention to something that we haven't thought of and we will be working to improve it. It's very flattering in a way. It's a great moment and it also, once again, boosts my motivation to continue what I'm already loving to do anyway. So
that's lovely. That's beautifully put. I think we'll have to clone you so that there are more of us out there like you, so that we can all be for more angle. Okay, joking aside,
yeah.
But yeah, that's beautiful to know and see how that pans out. Okay, so as we close out our session here, I have to ask you about being co-host of the Sky Lounge podcast. So what was the genesis of that and what is that about? Let our viewers know, our listeners know.
Yeah, so I'm co-hosting a podcast called Sky Lounge together with my friend David from Abu Dhabi. And actually we connected with David thanks to LinkedIn, same way as we connected with you thanks to LinkedIn.
Right.
But basically with David, we connected and just started following each other content. He's also he's a great writer. You should totally follow him on LinkedIn. And we started chatting and then I was in Dubai. He came over, we met for a coffee and we couldn't stop chatting. And then at some point we realized, oh, there's so much to discuss. You know what? Let's start a podcast. So that's how it started, and it's basically just two aviation enthusiasts having a chat. In the beginning we tried inviting guests and make it more educational. At some point we decided to just focus on our conversations without a guest. It's also much easier to coordinate. I'm pretty sure you experience all the pains of guest management and stuff. I am of course a perfect guest. Easy to manage, but other guests I cannot. I'm just joking. But yes, anyone who is an aviation geek loves to just listen to aviation content, feel free to follow our show. But my favorite podcast, and I have to mention this is called Layovers. This is the podcast that layovers I absolutely love. We had a quick conversation with Chris before this podcast. And he said, some podcasts, they do like 1.5 hours, 2 hours. And he said, how is it possible? Well, layovers, sometimes they do 2.5, 3 hours. And I love it. So if you're an aviation geek, follow them actually first, layovers. And then if you still have time, go to Sky Lounge.
Okay. Geek out, in other words, on layovers. I'm definitely going to check it out myself and see how that goes. That's a nice way to round out our conversation. I could talk for a lot more, but we have only so much time. I've really enjoyed having your company. I'd like to ask you the final traditional question on the podcast, which is, what is your favorite destination anywhere you've been around the globe and why?
Yeah, I know. That's a very good but hard question, but I have an answer. My favorite is Los Angeles, and that is because of LAX. Also because of Pacific Ocean. I love Pacific Ocean, the coastline, but LAX comes first. There is this spot, In-N-Out Burger. It's a little park. I don't know if you've been there. Have you been there?
To LAX, but not to LAX, yes, but not to
In-N-Out. It's just at the end of the runway. Basically, there is a little park and there is an In-N-Out Burger, which is Californian version of McDonald's. And you can plane spot. It's a massive plane spotting spot, where people gather. And actually every September, I think that's it, they do annual event by Cranky Flyer. It's Dorkfest. It's called Dorkfest. So aviation geeks I think it's assumed that you live in the US, that you attend Dorkfest, but I go there from Germany and people laugh at me that actually I just go there. It's a few hours event where aviation geeks gather and watch planes together, So yes, it has to be LAX. Yeah, because of LAX.
Okay. I thought you were going to cite that iconic aircraft tower.
Yes, it is iconic too. But plane spotting comes first, And if you look at my iPhone storage, I don't know, 80% of it has to be taken by the pictures that I've taken at different times there. Because I already know all the angles, how you should do selfie, where you should stand. So actually, when I go there and I see other tourists like newbies, they're being clumsy and not taking the right spot, I actually go there and suggest few things, and I feel very happy about it. Gives me joy.
Nice. Well, I definitely haven't done anything like that, but one of my very first trips, actually outside of my flying duty, as it were, I think I went to the beach, and sometimes the pathways obviously the aircraft pathways go over the water. So that's as close as I've been to sort of plane spotting, as it were. But maybe I'll have to check that out the next time I'm in LA. How many times have you been?
I don't know, too many
to
times.
Do that?
More than 20 for sure. More than 20 for sure.
Oh, wow. Okay. Bona fide geek.
Never gets boring for me. Never gets boring.
Okay. Alex, thank you so much for coming on the NoJetStress podcast and sharing your experience with us. We love the tips and insights I think will be valuable to our listeners. Please come back and tell us again soon about your experiences and the next adventures that you're having. And we look forward to having you back with us again soon.
Thank you so much, Chris. As I said, it was my honor, my pleasure to be a guest on this podcast, and I wish you and your podcast all the best. Happy and very well emotionally maintained travelers, right?